inside of the Halloween Niche Riches zip file, you're going to find these 4 different folders. 3 of them are for the 3 websites, and the bonus one includes an additional website as well as header graphics that you can actually customize, and there's even some articles in here. What I want to show you guys is how to go through the installation of one of these websites. Now, there is an installation PDF that is available for you. It's actually a pretty decent one, but I still know that sometimes people have trouble with these more complicated installations, so I wanted to be able to walk you guys through this. So with that said, I'm going to be installing the adult Halloween costume site. Inside of this site, you have a number of different options that are available to you, and I'll get back to these a little later on in the actual video where I walk you guys through using and how to go about actually setting up these different websites. But for now, we're just going to worry about getting the actual software running on a domain name. So we're going to be using these site installation files. Now, before I can actually go and install these files, I need somewhere to upload them to. So I need to have my domain name or subname set up that I am planning on using for this particular site. So to do that, let's say you have purchased a brand new domain that you're going to be using for this particular website. You would want to use the name servers from your shared hosting account. If you have an account where you can have all of these different add-on and subdomains on it, then you might just be able to simply add an additional domain name onto that. So you're going to need these name servers that you can then take over to wherever you registered the domain name. Now, I have some domains registered on GoDaddy, and I've pulled up one of them here so I can show you exactly how this works. I'm just going to launch this particular domain here, and then I can see the name servers that I have set up, and if I need to change them, I just click on this manage link here. Then I can go through and make sure this is set on custom, and then I can just add new name servers on. Now, if there are existing name servers here like this, you may need to delete them or simply edit them. That way you are not using old name servers as well as new ones. So in this name server box, you're going to be putting this information, but you just put it one line at a time. So I would have ns8165.hostgator.com, and this would go in here, and I click on OK, and then I repeat the same process with 8166. Now, for this particular domain, I don't want to actually change these name servers, so I'm not actually going to be processing that, but simply make sure you see the name servers listed here that are in your web hosting account. And once you have done that, also make sure you click on this Save button, or else it's not going to actually make anything that you have done take effect. So once you have actually pointed your domain name over to your website, or maybe you have an existing domain and you're planning on setting up a subdomain for it, then you can proceed on here to some additional steps. If you need to create a subdomain, you can do that through this subdomain page here. And all you really have to do on this page is simply select your main domain name, type in the subdomain that you want to be there for it, and then just click on the Create button. So once you have either your main domain name or your subdomain, whatever you want to be using for this website, once that is set up, then you can actually proceed on with the true installation of this whole package. So the first thing that you're going to need to worry about doing is you have to create a database for it. This whole package is based off of WordPress, so it's going to look really familiar once you're actually using it if you've ever used WordPress before. However, you cannot go about installing these the way you might normally be used to installing WordPress. A lot of times you can just use the software quick install option to install WordPress. Do not do that with these packages though. You have to do sort of a manual installation in a way. So the first thing that you need to do is go to the MySQL databases link, and this is going to allow you to create a new database on this site. So first you need to name it. I can just call this, I'll call it Hello W. I'm going to keep it a little short. I like to keep it under 7 characters in length, and the reason why is because the user that I'm going to be creating for this database also is actually held within that restriction of 7 characters or less. And I like for the database and the user to be named the same just for simplicity's sake. So I'm going to create my database here. So I have added the database, Fireboss Hello. Then I'm going to go back, and you're not actually finished yet. What you need to do now is go down below the table of your databases and look for MySQL users, and you need to actually add a new user to this account. So I like to call the user the same thing, that way I know they are associated. And then I'm just going to make a pretty weak basic password here so I can get this created. Obviously, the reason why I create a weak basic password, this is not something that you should be doing, but I do it simply because I'm recording a video here, and all of you guys can now see what I've created my password as. So obviously, I have to go back in later and give it a real password. But for the sake of creating this tutorial for you guys, this works out just fine for me. So what you need to do now, once your database is created and your user is created, then you have to add the user to the database. So we're going to select the user and the database that we just created here and click on the Add button. Now we need to give all privileges to this user and click on the Make Changes button. And now we are all set to go in terms of having our database created for us. So now that our database is completely done, now we can get back to these files that I was talking about before. And this will work the same no matter which one of these different site packages you're trying to install. You just do the same thing over here to get your website and your domain or subdomain set up correctly and get a database created for it, and then you can go on to installing your files. Now there's 2 different ways that you can go about doing this. I'm going to go back to my home screen here, and I'm going to walk you guys through both of these possibilities. So first of all, if you're just using this control panel here this might be the easiest way for you to go about doing it. You can simply go down to File Manager, and then you want to find your subdomain or domain name that you have created for this particular site. And you want to be opening up that site in the File Manager. So as you can see, this is a blank website. There is nothing here. So I want to click on the Upload button up here at the top, and then I am simply going to find those files. So now I have my two files located here, and what I want to do is actually install both of them. So I want to select one and upload it, and then I want to select the other one and I want to upload it as well. And that's actually all I have to do. I just now have to sit back and wait for these to actually complete uploading. So while these are uploading here, I'm going to show you how the other technique works. And this other technique is actually using FTP. If you are already used to going into FTP and you have some kind of FTP program that you use to connect to your website to upload larger files a lot faster to them, then you might want to use that option. So I'm going to show it to you. I use Core FTP. So you simply want to find your website, connect up to it, and then we can proceed on from there to actually load these files. Okay, so I skipped forward just a second here, and I have both the files over here on the left. This is on my local hard drive, and then over here on the right is my website. Now, I don't actually have to go about uploading these here because I just did it over in the File Manager. However, if I was just doing it through FTP, then I would simply come over here and select the files that I want to upload and click on the upload button. Now it's telling me that they already exist, so I'm not going to actually be uploading these again. But then I could just simply wait for the upload to complete that way. So once you have gone about this in either one of these two manners, then you can actually proceed with installing this. So what you're going to do is go to your browser and type in what your subdomain or domain name is that you have set up for this website. And then you want to add a / to the end of it and type in installer.php. So for my site, it's going to be halloween.downcomforter. It's actually guide.com / installer.php. And then I just visit this page in my browser. So this is the installer file that we just uploaded to this website. And what we have to do to actually run this installer file is to use the database information that we just finished setting up. So first of all, you have host. In almost all cases, you can simply leave this set to localhost. If for some reason it doesn't work for you using localhost, just send your web host an email and just say, hey, when I'm connecting up to a database, I was using localhost and it doesn't work. Is there a special database host that I am supposed to be using instead? And then we'll give you that information quicker and easier than I could teach you how to figure out how to use it. So now, beyond that, you have a couple different things that you have to provide. You have to provide the database name the database username, and the database password. So this is all information that we had previously set up over here on the control panel on this particular page. Our database name was this top box here. So that's going to be Fireboss Hello W for me, and I actually did the same thing again for my database username, and this is one of the reasons why I do that. It makes the installation so much easier. So down below where you were adding a new user here, you're going to want to provide that username and the password. Now note how the name that I had typed in was just Hallow, H-A-L-L-O-W. However, I'm putting in this other information. This is a complete name and a username for the database, and not just simply what I typed in. So if you're not quite sure where that comes from, just look over here in the control panel and it tells you right here. It gives you that little prefix. Both for the database and for the user, there's going to be a little prefix right here. So you want to make sure you're using that prefix and whatever you typed in to the text box after it. So if you're not doing that, if you're not putting in the complete thing there, it's not going to connect up properly and work. So then you just want to add your password and click on Test Connection. Now, this is actually going to run through and just simply make sure that it can connect to your server, and then it can connect to your database using the information you have provided. So once you have tested that and you're sure that it's working, and up above you also want to make sure that you've passed all of these requirements. If for some reason you haven't passed any of these requirements, also contact your web host about it. Maybe just copy and paste all this information for it and provide that to your hosting provider and just say, hey, can you help me to clear up this problem? Because oftentimes the requirements, if you don't pass them, it's something that you will need to contact your web host about to get them to perhaps enable a setting on your account. So once you have your information provided and you've passed your requirements and you've tested your connection, then all you have to do is click on the little checkbox saying you've read all the warnings and notices, and then run the deployment. So this is going to install the actual package for this website. And when this is done, we have our full site and it's actually finished and running, and then we can start logging into it and proceeding on with everything else. Now if you see the little update thing down at the bottom, make sure you click that as well. You want to reach this third step here where it says test site important final steps. The first thing, make sure you don't have any errors right here. If all these are 0, then you're set to go. The main things that you need to do here though is going to be removing the installer files once you have ensured that all of this is working properly. Otherwise, you can actually restart this whole process and reinstall. You can also click on Install Report right here, and it'll open up this little table for you, and just simply again make sure you're clear of warnings. And then the only thing you really have left to do is click on this file cleanup. Sorry, you can test your site first just to make sure that you are all installed and working correctly. And as long as you see it properly and there's no errors or anything of that nature, then you can proceed with deleting your installer files. So now your installation is completely finished. To log into your site, use the information 13 admin and 14 password, 1, 4, and then the word password, all in lowercase. You can find this information right here in the installation instructions. It'll tell you the address to go to and then the username and the password if you ever need to get back to that. However, once you have set up your site and logged into it, I would highly recommend to go through and change this. Go to Users, go to Your Profile, and then you can actually set your own information. You can set your own email address in here, and then especially here you can actually set a password. And then simply update your profile. So from here, you're now ready to proceed with working on your actual site, which I will be covering in the next training video.